I'd like to take the Eagle test drive.
The car's right outside.
Oh, thought he'd never leave.
Test drive a Vision at your Superstar Jeep and Eagle dealer.
Gets hungry neath the big sky. A big deal, hope you're driving by. Gather up all the young'uns inside. This deal's made for a big appetite.
It's 4 for $5 time. 4 Arby's beef and cheddar sandwiches for just $5. If you love cheese, you can't beat beef and cheddar, and you definitely can't beat this deal.
Saddle up, hurry on by. It's better out here beneath the western sky.
It's 4 for $5 time.
We're 19 WOIO Shaker Heights.
I wonder if that lady will ever finish vacuuming that floor. You know, she's been doing it now for 14 nights, still vacuuming the floor. Good evening, folks. I'm TS, and this is the simulcast up and running now for Thursday, January 26, 1995. Welcome to all the folks enjoying the Late Late Radio Show with me and Elliot Forrest on CBS Radio. Thanks for joining us on television and radio tonight as we present news reporter John Stossel from 2020 and ABC. The actor Emmanuel Lewis, this would be Whatever Happened to Webster, and I can assure you he's fine and coming back with a brand new TV series. And the comedian Jeff Foxworthy, all coming to you from CBS in Los Angeles, California, and back in New York City. I want to send in a special simulcast apology to the very popular radio personality Don Imus, who works back in New York on 660, that'd be WFAN, right? Formerly WNBC. Don was very kind here. Opening night, he sent a very lovely letter, you know, welcoming us back to CBS and congratulating me and the staff on the new show. And Michael Kelly Cullen, that'd be my executive assistant and the audience director, audience relations manager of the simulcast, not knowing who Don Imus is. And Don, please forgive him because he's from Great Britain. He's new to America. He's working hard. He's fallen in love, and he needs money, so I can't fire him, okay? He did not know who Don Imus was, and he sent Imus a form letter. You know, one, dear viewer, thank you very much, blah, 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 and don't ever call us again. And so I guess Imus had a field day on the radio back in New York one day last week, and Don, I hope that you'll forgive me and Michael Kelly Cullen. It will never, ever, ever happen again. Jeff Foxworthy is called the Redneck Comic. His home is Atlanta, Georgia. And I was talking with him off stage here before we started here a couple of minutes ago about Atlanta. I spent a lot of years working there as a TV booth announcer. I've talked about it with you from time to time over the years. And one of my jobs there was to collect money from political candidates when they came in to do political broadcasts. And one night in walked Lester Maddox, who would one day become governor of the state of Georgia. At the time, he was running for mayor of Atlanta, and he had bought 15 minutes of airtime for, I believe, $425, $450 on a Saturday night. And I said, Mr. Maddox, I said, before you go in the studio, could you give me the money? He said, I'm sorry. He said, son, he said, I don't have the money with me. Could I give you a check? And I said, Mr. Maddox, I said, my instructions are that I have to collect the cash. And he was okay about it. He said, well, what about if I, you know, went on the air and then came back and gave you the money? And I said, Mr. Maddox, I said, please don't put me in this spot because it's not me that's saying this, it's my boss, but I can't let you go in the studio. And the people with him got a little bit steamed about this, but he did not go in the studio. And luckily, the boss understood the rules and came back Monday morning. I told him what happened. He said, you did the right thing. But here was a man who would later go on to become governor of Georgia, and I kept him out of a TV studio one night. Jeez. And then I was thinking here about Frank Sinatra last night, who really gave us an incredible moment when he was talking about his father and the difficulty of watching your folks get old. You know, Mother Snyder's living out here in California right now for the time being, and Mom's getting up in years. She's 86 years old. And bless her heart, she watches her kid every night and cheers for him. By the way, she's still holding the job back at the grocery company in Milwaukee, just in case this all doesn't work out, you know. I kid you not. It's the A&P, 27th and Capitol. Slice the cheese, fill the milk case there, and grind the coffee. Would that be 8 o'clock, Red Circle, or Bocar, ma'am? So thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. We'll be right back with John Stossel and talk about consumerism, in his view, gone haywire after these messages.
It's true. More than 13 million AT&T True Rewards members enjoy points good for free AT&T minutes, frequent flyer miles, even rewards from Disney.
Your true voice.
These hands can do anything, including spread germs. Washing them often is good, but it doesn't go far enough. Lysol spray with antibacterial action kills germs on surfaces, so you don't pick them up with your hands, and that helps reduce the spread of colds and infectious diarrhea. Lysol Disinfectant Spray. Keep your hands off germs.
Yummy! My favorite, fried dumplings.
And soy sauce. That's okay.
She uses advanced formula Resolve carpet cleaner. It even gets out greasy combination stains.
It's true. AT&T True Voice makes your calls sound so clear and close, it's even patented. In fact, 4 out of 5 MCI and Sprint customers prefer it.
Your true voice.
More selection, more savings, and unbeatable service. Only one of the country's largest furniture retailers has the buying power to give you all this and more. At Value City Furniture, it's all priced to sell. Save over $200 on your choice of these trailer designer sofas, now priced to sell only $398 each. Plus your choice of this 5-piece solid pine dinette or buffet and hutch, not $700, now priced to sell only $498 each. So for the best home furnishing values in America, guaranteed, nobody is priced to sell lower than Value City Furniture.
You know, I thought I'd save big with this stuff, but my Downy turned out to be the real value. I poured more of this other softener into every wash, went through it like water, hoping for Downy's great softness. This one bottle of Downy softened a lot more. 8 towels, 68 pairs of socks, 13 blouses, 8 baby blankets, 4 sheets, 34 t-shirts, 5 pairs of jeans. That's 7 more loads with Downy. If all the softness isn't a value, I don't know what is.
Downy softness is the real value.
For many years now, consumer reporter John Stossel's stories have focused on big business as being the bad guy and how government regulations are necessary to help clean up America. Recently, though, his reports have examined the questions of whether there are too many rules and regulations in our lives, and he has taken some heat for those reports. He joins me now from New York to talk about that and his AB News special next week. John, thanks for coming on and for staying up very late back in New York City tonight, and welcome to CBS.
Thanks, Tom.
I want to talk to you here for a second about the program that generated a lot of heat in your life here recently, in which you put out the proposition that we perhaps are scaring ourselves to death, which, by the way, is something I've believed for a long time. What brought you to the point of finally saying enough already with these constant warnings about everything being bad for Americans?
Just that there were all these producers coming to me saying, we got to do a story on this. This is killing you, and coffee's bad for you, and rugs are dangerous. And I had to say, enough already. And I couldn't fight them off easily just by saying, look, how many people does this kill? Because they would always find some study that said this killed 4 or 5 people.
Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes if you do the math on some of these predictions of dire doom, you realize that the math does not support the syllogism itself, that simply not that many people can die and allow the world population to continue to expand at its present rate. But let me ask you here about this idea that people are so stupid that they don't know if you take a hairdryer in the bathtub, you're going to electrocute yourself. I would think that most people over the age of 14 would know that as a matter of common sense and common knowledge.
I would think so, and it's also a problem when the government creates the climate that we will protect you everywhere, then people stop looking out for themselves.
I don't know if you buy mouthwash, but I bought a big bottle of Scope mouthwash here about a month ago. They now have child-proof caps on mouthwash. The idea being here that I guess there's some small alcoholic content in mouthwash that might be harmful to children, although I've never known of the folks sitting around Sunday dinner and having a Laboris on the rocks. You know what I'm saying?
There's also something called a rebound effect. I mean, after the Tylenol poisonings, we spent billions of dollars, and we all pay more for products for all these child-proof caps. And poisonings went down from aspirin poisonings on children and so forth. But then, because the caps are so hard to open, people leave the tops off, and then more kids get poisoned.
Exactly. And in the case of mouthwash, somebody called me. They said, you know, Tom, that stuff's got alcohol in. I said, so does Smirnoff vodka, but you can twist the cap right off. There's no... can you imagine if they put child-proof caps on liquor bottles? We'd be smashing the necks off them.
A lot of people struggling with that.
Now, Ralph Nader, after this show came out, referred to you as a traitor to the cause of consumerism. How seriously do you take that criticism?
Well, I resent it, obviously. I think that a consumer reporter's job ought to be to warn you about what's dangerous and to put it in perspective. Nader's attitude is that everything has to be warned about and the government must take action about everything. But if you worry about the little stuff, then you can't focus on the big stuff. I mean, Nader says flying is dangerous, but hey, flying's a lot safer than driving. If you scare people about flying, more people drive, that kills more people.
You know what?
You should have bare floors. Carpets are bad for you. I mean, at what point do you say it's not worth it?
You know, I was just talking tonight to, who's the gal that's in Get Smart? You know who I mean? Barbara Feldman. Thank you, sir. I was talking with her on radio tonight, and she's on crutches tonight because she has hardwood floors in her apartment in New York, and somehow one of the boards came loose, and she cracked her toe, and she's on crutches for 2 weeks because she doesn't have carpets in the house.
She should have had carpet.
There you go. The new show coming up on ABC is about boys and girls, and it cites the differences which you believe are inherent in the genders. And here you are again on the side of political incorrectness, especially in view of the feminists who say, hey, people are people and gender is incidental. What can we expect in this report from ABC?
It's really the story of how I was confused and finally wised up, that I believed what I was taught in the 60s in college, that we are basically interchangeable, and it's only the horrible sexism of society, which is still there, which leads little girls to not do as well in math, which leads boys to be more aggressive. As Gloria Steinem says, if we raised the boys more like the boys wouldn't be aggressive. And then I had kids, and once you have kids, you know this is nonsense.
You know, I have a friend who had a son about 3.5 years ago, and I was talking to her a week or so ago. She said, you know, she said, I never knew about the truck gene. I said, the what? She said, you know, little boys like trucks. You know, if he hears a truck on the street outside, he will get up and look at the truck, whereas a daughter may not look at the truck. She'll respond to something different.
And you could still say, well, the parents are doing something to them at that early age and leading the boy toward the truck and the girl toward the doll. But there's all kinds of interesting research now on newborns, on animals in the womb that show a lot of this is just hardwired into us. And this raises questions about all these affirmative action laws, about women in combat, women in the fire department, about a lot of lawsuits we're paying for. If we are different, then maybe we ought to acknowledge that and not try to rearrange society as if we were all interchangeable. We're not.
Examples, then, of interchangeability not working that you've noticed, especially in the case of raising your son and daughter.
Well, in school, we're setting up schools where we expect the boys to act like girls. It's easier for a girl to sit still. The boys have this testosterone raging in them that makes them act like little killers half the time, and they need to run around. So do you punish a boy? Do you make him, label him attention deficit disorder? Do you label him a bad boy because he can't sit still? I think we have to recognize that these differences are really there. Mm-hmm. Girls perhaps ought to be taught math differently. Girls learn better in groups. Maybe we should acknowledge that and teach them math separately.
And when you interviewed the Glorias, Allred and Steinem, on your findings and on your beliefs, what kind of response did you get from them?
They were ticked off. They say we shouldn't do this program.
You got to be kidding me.
They say this sets our daughters back. What kind of evil message is this? What kind of agenda do you have? You shouldn't do this program.
What do you think the problem is that men and women have these days in communicating to each other? And let me just venture my own opinion first, which will probably steam some people, but when you got your own show, you can steam them. Why is it always that we say the male point of view or the female point of view is better than or worse than? Why don't we say that the point of view is different from each other, that there is merit in each point of view, and that there is correctness in each point of view, but there is a basic difference that we ought to pay some attention to? Why is that never freely given by the feminists?
I think it's not given because, I mean, let's look at history. It is true that for years we men have been pigs, and we have enslaved women. And the feminists are very sensitive about going back to those times when women were not allowed to try out for the fire department or to have many of the good jobs that we men held. And I can see the resistance.
But the motivation for that was not to deprive, but to in our own way, protect. And although that protection was misguided and, as 20/20 hindsight would prove, not necessary, that was the motivation in terms of working in the fire department, working in the police department, being exposed to combat, digging ditches in the streets. Now, voting rights is another matter. That was pure sexism. But these other things that you talk about, I think that the paternalism was not meant to hold women back, but rather to protect them until we learned out that protection, that protection wasn't necessary.
I mean, I would agree with the feminists who would say, so what? It still held us back, and therefore, we can't even contemplate getting close to that again. But, you know, when they go to the point that, therefore, a scientist who studies differences in gender shouldn't be allowed to do that, that seems crazy, and that kind of stuff is going on. Researchers have had their grants cut off.
We're with John Stossel of ABC News, who joins us from the CBS television studios in New York. And you can join us from your house at 1-800-95-CBS-TV on both radio and television. We'll return after these messages.
Every morning, everywhere, when the sun wakes up the sky, let Folgers be there to open up your eyes. Nothing that aroma cannot do, waking you and me, waking everyone in harmony. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your can. All across this land, yes, I have. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your car.
Centuries ago, one man was chosen to protect all that is good.
I know who you are. You're Komen McCloud.
But an enemy from the past has traveled through time to challenge him in the present. Highlander, the final dimension, rated PG-13, starts tomorrow.
Connecticut women, #1 in the country. The men, #2 and still undefeated. They both battle Kansas, Saturday on CBS.
Get live with CBS on Prodigy, the nation's most popular online service. Go behind the scenes of The Late Late Show with Tom Snyder. Talk with Tom and his guests online. Tell us what you think. Get program information. Even take a special Tom Snyder trivia quiz. To order Prodigy, call 1-800-PRODIGY and ask for the CBS offer today.
Okay, Cleveland, does this look familiar? Well, it ought to. Be ready this year. Come to Automatic Auto Sales, where you can rent to own and reestablish your credit through a real bank. Why take the bus when you can drive for almost the same money? All you need is a steady job and proof of residency. We care about you. All our cars are warranted for 90 days or 3,000 miles at no charge. Mention this ad and get an additional $150 off the price of your car. Come to Automatic Auto Sales on Vine Street in Eastlake. Do it now.
Intermission, the show that asks, how much do you really know about the silver screen?
Brought to you by American Movie Classics.
The man who directed The Three Amigos also gave us such screen comedy hits as Animal House and Trading Places. Who is he? On our 10-point scale, this question has a difficulty rating of 6.
Mister, you better find another line of work.
Saddle up the horses, Pilgrim.
You left a boy out there to do a man's job.
We're gonna round them up, and we're gonna bring them to the corral.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Accept no imitations. There's only one John Wayne. Well, actually, two. When you watch the John Wayne double feature every weekend in January on AMC.
I'm not gonna hit you, mister. Like hell I'm not.
The string of hit movies to his credit, John Landis is one of Hollywood's hottest directors.
We are back, continuing our lively conversation now with John Stossel of ABC News in 2020. And joining us on the toll-free line here is Sandy in Beverly, New Jersey. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Good
How are
evening,
you?
Sandy. I'm fine, thanks, and welcome to our show.
Hi. I have a question for John. I think that the consumer programs are very informative. However, I also feel that the consumer issues, especially when they focus on professions, tend to go to the radical edges, the fringes of the profession itself, instead of going to the average professional. Example, chiropractic.
I was going to say, I bet you're a chiropractor.
And I am not, however, my husband is.
And what do you feel is unfair about consumerism or government when it comes to chiropractic?
Well, I guess there's no real unfairness towards in the government. However, the show that I did watch was, it was geared to the radicals in the fringes of the profession. Mm-hmm. It was not an accurate portrayal of chiropractors in general.
Gotcha.
And I feel that maybe these shows are done that way for sensationalism, for ratings, instead of an accurate picture.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, I can hear the tease now. How chiropractic could kill you coming up after this message. I can hear it being done, and then they'll find the one screwball lunatic in South Carolina who is beyond the pale.
Exactly.
Actually, Tom, she's talking about a story I did.
Really?
And we found a bunch of screwballs.
You be the one, huh?
We were doing a story on the chiropractors who treat babies and say, you don't need inoculations, chiropractic can fix all of it. But she has a valid point. The media tends to play up the problems. I mean, you know, if I say, tonight on 2020, apples will kill you, you're more likely to watch than if I say, tonight, apples are okay.
But that's irresponsible, John, to do that.
It is irresponsible, and I've stopped. Now I only warn you about the big risks. And I don't say apples will kill you.
I must say, out of all fairness, that my husband is one of the best chiropractors around.
I'm sure he is.
And that is, I mean, I can attest to that from his patients' testimonials. But that is, what was portrayed on television is not your average chiropractic treatment. Your average chiropractor does not frown upon immunizations. They don't frown upon treatment for ear infections.
I understand that, and keep in mind, Sandy, that this is not a show about chiropractic and how it's good for America, but your point is very well made, and I thank you for calling.
Thank you.
All right, good night now.
Good night, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Here is George in Brevard, North Carolina. Hello.
Hi, Tom. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine, thank you, George.
I've got a question for John.
Go ahead.
Is there any story you have been involved in that you thought you could have made a greater contribution?
One that he could have done better than he did?
Yes.
No, I think I've done every one perfectly. I can't.
Even the one where
you wish you could do a little more, but
even the one where you took on the chiropractors.
Well, you always have some second thoughts, things you could have done better if you had more time or more information, but I can't single one out to answer his question.
At this particular time. Well, there you go, George. The man is pleased.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. John, Medford, Massachusetts. Hello.
Good evening, Tom, and good evening, John.
Good evening.
My question to you, John Stossel, is a couple of years back, you did a story on professional wrestling, and I know this might bring back painful memories for you, but the question I have is this. In one segment of the story, you were walking with Hulk Hogan, and the question has to be asked, why didn't you ask the question to Hulk Hogan that you asked to Dr. D. David Schultz?
What was the question he asked to Dr. D. David?
He asked Dr. D. Dave Schultz whether professional wrestling was real.
Yep.
And that has always bothered me because he had Hulk Hogan at a basically vulnerable moment walking on the street. And he could have asked him that, and I think he might have gotten some type of a different reaction than what he got.
Okay, let me have him answer. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Well, I asked Dave Schultz, and he beat me up. I asked Hogan, too, and his answer was just too boring to use. I forget what he said, but he basically evaded the question.
Mm-hmm. And John in Medford, what do you think? What's your answer to the question?
Well, of course, now that I've grown up, I think it's basically show. But when I first saw that report, I thought maybe he should have asked Hogan the question more than Schultz. And then later on in years, I heard that Dave Schultz was actually told to do that to John and by his boss.
You know, I worked at a station in Atlanta, Georgia, and I probably should have told the wrestling story instead of the story about the guy, Lester Maddox, you know, because it would have been funnier. But then again, we're not here to be funny.
Tom, to you, welcome back.
Thank you very much. But the point I'm trying to make here, John, in my own simple-minded, feeble way, is trying to muddle through this as best I can, and get home to watch Komen. It's a joke.
You're not simple or feeble-minded, Tom.
Huh?
You're not simple nor feeble-minded.
I understand that, but we used to have a wrestling show on the TV station in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I asked a wrestler what was his worst fear in being hurt when he's in the ring, and he said being hit by batteries and other objects thrown by members of the audience.
Oh,
that was their
the
greatest
audience
fear.
does that at every wrestling match that I've been to.
Yeah. John, I'm glad you called. Thanks.
Good evening, Tom. Good evening, John.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Brian in West Lafayette, Indiana. Hello. Which is it, Brian?
West Lafayette.
Very good. Hi.
Hi there. I have a question for John Stossel.
Sure.
I'm going to be in the teaching profession in the coming year. I'm student teaching now, and I'm going to hopefully be teaching in the fall. And from his claims on how we should teach the differences between men and women, as a teacher, what should really be my role? Should I be teaching that women can attain the same roles as men, or should I do as you said before and saying that there are only certain roles for women and only certain roles and jobs for men?
And I missed the grade level at which you'll be teaching.
I'll be teaching in the high school. So
okay. By the way, that's a great question. What do you think, John?
Yeah, please don't misunderstand me. We're not saying in this special that there are roles that should be only for men or only for women. All we're saying is that, look, if you let the chips fall as they may, it's going to shake out differently. You are going to get more male engineers, more male mathematicians. You may get more female teachers. Women have better verbal skills. People will go in different directions, but it means nothing for any individual. There's one study we have in the show where they separate a 1-year-old from the mother, and in general, the boys scream and try to blast their way through the screen that separates them, and girls call out for help. But on the day we filmed, every single child who called for help was a boy, and every child who tried to bang their way through was a girl. So there are exceptions
there you go. Yeah.
to all these rules.
Yeah, it's not a perfect world.
So, I mean, would you then say our roles would then be just to try and teach somewhere down the middle and let students choose on their own then?
I would hope so. And maybe boys and girls need to be taught differently. We're still learning about this, but we learn differently.
Brian, I'm glad you called. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, and John, I'll be watching with interest next week. Thank you for coming on and staying up with us late tonight here on CBS. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, bye-bye. We have done a number of interviews here with the TV monitor this week, haven't we? Sure hope we don't get too much radiation from that monitor. No. Sometimes that energy just sucks it right out of you. Emmanuel Lewis is next. Whatever happened to Emmanuel Lewis? He's right over there. We'll be right back.
Real flavor has arrived in a fat-free dressing. Tangy Dijon mustard blended with sweet honey. Made with real non-fat buttermilk. Hidden Valley fat-free honey Dijon. Filled with flavor, not fat.
Introducing Tidy Scoop with Dust Trap, a revolutionary new ingredient that pours so clean, it's gonna leave all those other scooping fillers in the dust. Make it tidy all the time.
Hello from Plank Road, where our man Paul has gotten lots of calls and letters asking, is ice beer really beer frozen like ice? Nope. Paul says that would be beer on a stick, not an ice beer. Icehouse is ice beer. Ice brewed so there's never any watered down taste, just more of what you want in a beer. Ice brewed Icehouse. It's not frozen, but you can sample a frosty cold one almost anywhere. Thanks, and enjoy.
When you say the best, words like finest, foremost, favorite come to mind. But millions of country music fans will tell you Vince Gill, Kathy Mattea, and Tim McGraw are the best. And Pam Tillis, Marty Stewart, and the Pointer Sisters are the best. Join hosts Clint Black and Travis Tritt for the Best of Country, Friday on CBS.
Bad boys who prey on the elderly.
The victim died?
And Chuck Norris with a retirement plan.
What if I told you I was a Texas Ranger? Well, that'd be the last thing you ever said.
An all-new Walker Saturday.
Thinking about a used luxury car? You know you can buy a used Cadillac for what you'd expect to pay for a new Toyota or Oldsmobile. Don't even think about a Cadillac, Lincoln, or luxury import until you've thought about Crestmont Cadillac. At Crestmont Cadillac, we always stock at least 60 pre-owned Cadillacs. And there's always a few used Rolls-Royces around. You could drive all day and not see 60 used Cadillacs at 20 dealerships. Or you could drive to Crestmont Cadillac at I-271 in Chagrin and choose from 60 Cadillacs at one location. Crestmont Cadillac in Beechwood.
Huge selection, top name brands, and low prices. We've got it all during the 22-hour sale at Value City. Unbeatable savings on men's Famous Maker long and short sleeve dress shirts. Not $20 to $24. Your choice, only $6.99. Men's poly wool blend dress slacks, not $25, only $9.99. And save over 50% on men's and ladies' 5-pocket denim jeans. Not $20 to $28. Your choice, only $9.99. All this and more during the 22-hour sale at all Value City department stores.
Women of Worth, brought to you by L'Oreal. Nancy Brinker's tragedy inspired her fight for women's health. More after this.
Before you color your hair, stop and think. What if you could protect your hair as you color? Now you can with new Excellence Cream from L'Oreal. Because Excellence is a cream, it doesn't drip, it even protects. And Excellence Cream really covers gray. What I love is the color, rich and healthy. New Excellence Cream. Does your hair color do all that?
New Excellence, the protective cream colorant from L'Oreal.
Think about it.
When her sister Susan died of breast cancer, Nancy Brinker was determined to help find a cure. She founded the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, and it's become the 4th largest funding organization for breast cancer research in the country. Nancy Brinker, another woman of worth, brought to you by L'Oreal.
Tomorrow night here, we're joined by Gary Marshall, who was absolutely hysterical last night on Murphy Brown, or Monday night, rather. And then the man with a front row seat to O.J. Simpson's trial, that'd be the writer Dominic Dunn. You know, from time to time on this program, we plan to catch up with some people who have been away from the limelight for a short while. And tonight we check in with our pal Emmanuel Lewis, the star of the enormously popular Webster back in the 1980s. And he's here tonight live and in person, not a videotape, to tell us what he has been up to. It's great to see you, and thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you, thank you.
What about the pressures of being a kid actor? You know, I interviewed Gary Komen when he was at the height of his popularity on the show over at NBC, Different Strokes. And it seemed to me that Gary missed his childhood completely because he was working all the time. Looking back, do you have the feeling that you missed anything at all?
Not at all. Not at all. I had a great childhood. My mom always saw to it that there was playtime and there was fun time. And also on the set, we had a great time as well. So, no, that's I think, one of the big difference between Gary and I.
I think so. I met his parents, yeah. and we can say it now with 20/20 hindsight looking back. They really didn't go out of their way to make sure that he could be a little kid for a while before he grew up, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
See, I never really knew about how he had that all situation taken care of. I just know for me that my mom made plenty of time. And I don't know exactly how it balanced out for him.
You're always going to be Webster, you know that. I'm sure that people
yes.
still stop you on the street and say, hey, you know, you're...
Yes.
Is that okay?
Oh, it's fine. I went to Italy for last year for vacation, and I was the show's international, so
I know.
Everywhere I go, anywhere I go, they see my character, and even though I speak different languages over there, they still recognize me.
And
it's great.
Where in Italy did you go?
I went to Florence, I went to Rome, I went to Venice, and I went to Milan.
Yeah, I was in Milan last August around the Northern Lakes region. Isn't that great over there?
It's wonderful.
I know, it's fabulous. Now, you were recently over at the TV convention in Las Vegas with a show called The New Adventures of Mother Goose.
Yes.
Tell me about this operation. You just happen to have the book with you, right?
I just happen to have
Here, let me give you all right, they got it there.
Happen to have the book with me. We just recently filmed the show, New Adventures of Mother Goose, about a couple of weeks ago. And we were over at NAPD selling the show syndicated international and stuff.
That'd be NATP, which is the it is the TV. What a great name for an organization, huh? These are all the TV honchos. The what do you call them? The executives. The
television program executives.
Television program executives.
There you
NATP.
go.
Sounds something like bug urination, doesn't it? Yeah, it's great. And boy, what an aptly named group, huh? Anyway. That's a joke. So anyway, now when you say we film this, you have a co-star on this.
Yes, Sally Struthers.
Oh, there you go.
And we have a great cast in the whole bit, and they were such professionals, such great people to work with. And it's always a joy when you get a chance to work with people that really know their craft and that you can just sit down and just be in awe at each other, no matter, you know, what they're doing, because the characters they have are so great.
Yeah. Now, I read about you. You are heavily into the martial arts.
Yes.
Where are you in karate right now? What level?
I'm a black belt.
You're a black belt?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm a black belt in American karate and as well as taekwondo.
So you can take care of yourself, right?
I try.
And what does it do for you mentally?
Mentally, it conditions you to become a better person. I think it gives you confidence. It gives you discipline. It gives you a lot of different things. It all depends on what you put in it and what you need that it gives you the most.
Sure. By the way, isn't that true of everything? What you put in, you get out, you know?
Exactly.
It's great to see you again. You look well, and I look forward to your return to television, and I really appreciate you spending a little time with us here tonight.
Hopefully you'll see my TV series as well that we're working on as well.
That's what I meant to say. I hope to see that on television very soon. That'll be the New Adventures of Mother Goose.
No, this is another TV series that we're working on.
I'm sorry?
It's called Easily Does It.
Easily Does It?
Yes, and this is another show that we're working on. It's going to be a TV series as well.
Right, and you're the serial killer.
No, I'm a high-tech detective.
There you go.
And my character's name is Jack Easily.
Oh, so, Easily Does It.
There you go.
Clever, clever.
Clever, clever.
These TV guys come up with everything, huh? It's probably a Nat P creation.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Get over it. Thanks for coming on tonight, young man.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great to see you, sir. Emmanuel Lewis, folks, will be back on TV very, very soon. Dial him up. Still to come, the comedian Jeff Foxworthy as the simulcast rumbles on for late on Thursday, early on Friday. We're heading for the barn right after these messages.
How fast can you begin to feel relief from a cold? Depends. How fast can you open a Hall's with vapor action? Hall's vapor action means instant action, only from the halls of medicine.
Introducing the only candy made with the refreshing tart and sweet taste of ocean spray. All natural fruit waves when you're thirsty for a great candy.
Perhaps being ranked best model in its price class in initial quality by J.D. Power and Associates puts the Geo Prism on something of a pedestal. But being priced starting at $12,050 puts Prism very much within reach. Get to know the car ranked best in its class in initial quality. Geo Prism at your Chevrolet Geo dealer.
How much longer can he last on that battery?
You know, he just doesn't get it. Duracell batteries outlast all other brands. Hey, Larry, sometime today?
Larry Doty for the birdie.
Hooked it. That should cost him a stroke.
Herb.
Okay, I'll get him down.
Herb.
The copper top. Tops them all.
Dear Dave, I had the good fortune to break down in front of a Wendy's the other day. So I went inside to use the phone. I said, the food looks great. I'm gonna have lunch. I couldn't believe what I could get for 99 cents each. A big hot baked potato, a side salad, and a biggie drink. My whole meal was under $3, which made it an even better deal. And I had plenty left over to pay that cute guy who towed my car away. Love, Marcia.
I love happy endings.
Wendy's 99-cent super value menu. Better food makes it a better value.
An unsolved case comes back.
You bossed this guy on a technicality?
These were just girls. They were little girls.
Putting Detective Phillips
Did you have a history of battering Anita Sherman?
Love taps. Happy hunting, Detective.
onto the trail of a serial killer.
I have never hurt anybody!
Under suspicion at a special time Friday.
Tonight, Roseanne tells all. Plus, Aretha Franklin.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the words of Roseanne...
You can't be funny all damn night long.
The biggest game in football is the Super Bowl, and the biggest used car sale of the USA is Super Sale 95 at your regional Mullinax superstores. A sale too big for just one day. Shop Super Saturday from 9 to 9. Sunday, our pregame sale is from 11 to 4. That's 17 big hours with $500, $1,000, up to $2,500 off our already low sale prices. We've rounded up hundreds of fresh traded used cars and trucks, and everything goes during Super Sale 95. Don't miss the fun and excitement of the biggest used car event of the season this weekend at all regional Mullinax superstores.
Working together, we can.
You may know my next guest as the redneck stand-up comedian. He's also the best-selling author and recording star. His name is Jeff Foxworthy, and his newest book is called Games Rednecks Play. And you might think we were sitting here talking about redneck humor, but actually, we were telling locker jokes.
And darn good ones.
And by the way, folks, these were good locker jokes. How you been? It's good to see you again,
Good to see you again. Nice to be back.
You know, I think we talked about this the last time, but before you became a comedian, you went through Georgia Tech down in Atlanta, your home,
right.
And you worked at your dad's company. Well, he didn't own
no,
it.
he didn't own the place,
Yeah,
but IBM. Right.
IBM. What was your job there?
I carried the tool bag. I fixed mainframe computers, the great big room-sized job.
Yeah, and like, were you funny on the job?
Well, IBM obviously wasn't a breeding ground for comedy.
No.
You know, in fact, I was telling them, I was the guy that my boss sent a note. I just did the Fox Theater in Atlanta. He said, I can't believe I'm paying $22.50 to hear you do the stuff I used to try to put a stop to at work. But I was the guy in the break room that, I used to do you in the break room.
Get out of here.
At IBM, no.
You're kidding. The break room where you went for coffee and stuff.
Yeah, you go for coffee, and I would entertain the people. And that's, I'd never been in a comedy club. A bunch of people at IBM said, they dared me to go down to the local comedy club and go on.
Well, they dared me to go down to the comedy club, and what the heck,
and sure, I'll buy that. Let's say, what the heck you did go down.
Get us a pack of Marlboro.
That's all you need, the smokes, and you're ready. But I went down, and they were having a contest, and I went up and I won the contest the first night on stage. And
you're kidding.
It sounds corny, and I knew 2 minutes into it, that's what I wanted to do. And I quit the job. Within 4 months, I quit the job.
What, 35 G's a year?
Yeah.
And good-looking suits and ties?
Yeah, I had the wingtips.
Yeah, the whole thing.
You know, the white shirts.
Yeah, and then you found out in Georgia, because I think the wife had to go to work, that
right.
you really can't make much of a living in Georgia doing comedy.
The second month after I quit IBM, I made $20 doing comedy.
Jeez.
My wife was an actress. She had to take a full-time job selling milk. And I was, within 3 months after IBM, they were repossessing my car, and I was working as a temporary for Kelly Girl, sorting files during the days.
You worked for Kelly Girl, huh?
Yeah. Months after
What
IBM.
was your name, Marge, when you worked there?
Those are days we don't really want to talk.
And your job sorting mail and stuff like that. What'd they pay for that kind of work?
$4 an hour.
Jeez.
They repossessed my car. I mean, it was...
Who got the bright idea in the family that maybe we ought to go to California or New York because we're not going to make it in this line of work? Not that Georgia... I worked in the state for 5 wonderful years. I loved Savannah. I loved Atlanta, but it's not a place where you can make a lot of money in showbiz.
You know, it was my wife. And my wife made me do it. I didn't want to leave Georgia.
She said, I can't take this milk run anymore.
I want to eat. She said, you'll never know until you went out. And I was having problems like in Georgia. Nobody would consider me for television, whether it was The Tonight Show or HBO or what. And we moved to L.A., and within 2 months, I was on The Tonight Show.
Now, how did that happen so quickly? Who saw you?
Jay Leno saw me.
Is that right?
And
good for him.
And Jay, and I, to this day, give credit to Jay. Jay didn't know me, and he saw me, and he liked me, went back and told Johnny about me, and in 2 months, I was on the show.
With Johnny or Jay?
I was on the first time with Jay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And were you on with Johnny, too?
Yeah.
What's the difference between going on with Jay and Johnny?
Oh, you know, Jay was kind of like, I guess, more like a contemporary or a peer. Johnny, when I started doing this, when I quit the job at IBM, that's all I wanted to do was sit next to Johnny Carson one time. And in fact, I have over my desk, I have a picture of me sitting in the chair talking to Johnny, and Johnny's got his head back laughing. And if this stops tomorrow, I got to do... I don't have a plan. Now, once I did that, it was like I don't have a plan.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because I think there was a time when everybody in America said, you know, I'd just like to sit next to Johnny once. Yeah. You know, it's, by the way, I did it a couple times. It's neat, isn't it?
It's you know,
I mean, you're scared to death because, you know, you're in the presence. I mean, this this is the man, you know.
Well, I think Leno said one time that doing your first time with Johnny was kind of like losing your virginity, that it's over real quick and you don't remember much about it, but you know later you want to do it again. But I read not long ago in December that David Letterman had said that was the highlight of his show business career.
That's true.
The first time he...
By the way, when you walk out there the first time, and others have said this, but it's always fun to hear a kid say it. I mean, your heart's going 100 miles an hour when you're doing comedy on The Tonight Show.
Scared to death. And with Johnny, I mean, Jay now you do it. Jay comes by and says hello. Johnny, you didn't meet Johnny before the show. And you walked out and you didn't know if you were going to go to the couch. It depended on if Johnny liked you. And so you would do your 6 minutes, and you take your bow, and you looked over there, and, you know.
Please,
yeah.
Please, give me this.
And I looked over there, and he said, come here. And I thought I was going to be scared to death, but, like you said, I mean, you met Johnny. It was the opposite. Johnny, he was in such control that you sat down and you knew you were going to be okay.
Yeah. You know what, the interesting thing about Carson, for all the years he did it, he never let anybody get hurt out there. No. And by the way, these folks watching, they don't want me to let you get hurt out here.
And please don't.
Oh, and I wouldn't do it for a million years.
I'm a brittle man.
Yeah, right. Hey, how about them dogs?
Well, we're having some lean years.
Yeah, I know. I used to have a guy on radio. He would call me. I forget his name. He lived down in Atlanta, and he was a big Georgia Bulldog fan. Morris in Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, when I did radio. And we talk about all manner of things for a couple minutes like I do here with the folks. And I say, hey, by the way, Tom. I said, yeah. He says, how about them dogs?
we're a little obsessive with our football.
That's okay. I lived there for 3 years in Atlanta, and then I worked in Savannah for 2 years.
Savannah?
Savannah and Atlanta.
When you kind of, you see that, and it does happen to you. When you're in the South, you start talking that way.
No question. I'd say Savannah, Atlanta.
You know what, I do a thing sometimes on stage about
Let me do a thing here for just a second. We'll continue with Jeff Foxworthy and be joined by all of you along the toll-free highway. On both radio and television, it's 800-95-CBS-TV. We'll be right back after a short break.
193 million sisters and brothers, moms and dads, 126 million, 250 million friends. Now, for everyone, MCI introduces new friends and family. A 25% savings automatically when you spend just $10 a month. That's a 25% savings on every call to everyone in America, no matter what long-distance company they use. New friends and family. MCI customers are invited to join, and so is everyone else. So call us.
At my school, this is the classroom. You don't want mistakes, so you keep your hunger under control. In class breaks, I reach for Snickers.
Packed with fresh roasted peanuts, thick milk chocolate, and caramel. Snickers satisfied.
Sure, the days are long, but deep down inside, I know it's worth it.
They rock the world. Bruce Springsteen, Cream,
Aerosmith,
Bob Marley, Rod Stewart, U2,
very clear.
The Doors. Time Life Video announces the history of rock and roll, soon to be a major television event. Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, The Grateful Dead, Dire Straits,
Fleetwood Mac, Little Feat, Elton John,
Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton.
We had nothing to explore but ourselves.
Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin,
Well, dark clouds are rolling.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
It was like nothing I had ever heard.
Tom Petty, Steely Dan. Begin with the 60s. A full hour of great rock video for just $9.99. Use your credit card and get a free rock and roll cap. Janis Joplin. The Rolling Stones. Santana. The Who. Jimi Hendrix. Then experience other awesome history of rock and roll videos. There's no minimum to buy. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Call now to get the history of rock and roll.
It was a great time to be alive.
To order your The 60s video, call 1-800-847-8900. That's 1-800-847-8900. Use your credit card and receive the rock and roll cab free. Or send $9.99 plus $3.49 shipping to History of Rock and Roll, Department 7, Richmond, Virginia, 23280.
We're with Jeff Foxworthy, who's got a great new CD out, which has gone platinum, by the way, and this is called You Might Be a Redneck If. Why don't we get a shot of this here and sell a few of these things?
Please, my babies need shoes.
Although, wait a second, is it platinum?
It's platinum.
You don't need us.
First comedy album in 10 years to do that.
You know, I didn't even know until this came in today that they made these comedy albums anymore. This is a tribute to
This is a true story. Warner Brothers called me last year and said, let's do an album. And I said, I don't think anybody buys comedy albums. I thought we'd sell 30 because I knew if it was clean enough, my mother would buy like 10 for the lady she works with,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
It's over $1 million.
Isn't that amazing?
Number 4 on the chart.
What, and I'm not trying to get fresh with you here, but if you don't mind, what do you get for each one of these? Like a dime, or do you know, or will you tell?
I don't know. If I knew, I would tell you, maybe. But it's not bad.
I'm sure it isn't.
It's not bad.
Sure beats digging ditch, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or
working that tool bag.
Yeah, or working for Atlanta Gas and Power. Why do they make these things so you have to bust the package to open it?
Unbelievably hard to open.
Jeez, like that. Even after you paid for it, they don't want you to have it, do they?
People come up and say, sign it, and I say, if you'll open it, I'll sign it.
There you go. Here is, oh, you were going to tell us Southern words.
No, you just said Savannah, and I just find it. Sometimes on stage I do the words we have in the South they don't have anywhere else, and my current favorite is the word sensuous. Told my old lady, since you was up, get me a beer, you know. Sensuous.
It's the one I talked about where this is a New York word that you don't hear very often. The word is called sinus. It's a disease. And this is when you're with a girl that you're not supposed to be with and somebody's seen us.
Or as my brother would use the word used to could.
Yeah.
Can you dance? Well, I used to could.
Used to could, yeah.
How do you spell that?
Yeah, right. How do it know?
Now we're down to telling punchlines.
Yeah, you're right. We know all the gags. We're just doing the lines. Jeez. Maybe I won't watch Komen. Maybe I'll watch this. Here's Nikki in Waynesville, Missouri. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Jeff.
I hope you're enjoying our show. Thanks for calling.
I love it.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask Jeff if you thought that the general American public would ever truly understand what it's like to be a redneck.
You know what? I get asked in interviews a lot, how many people have ever been offended by this? And the honest answer is not one. No. The more guilty people are of it, the better they like it. And I'm the kind of comic, I don't laugh at, I laugh with.
Sure.
There's nothing mean. I think people look at me and think, well, you've done half of this stuff.
By the way, there's great humor. Like when I worked in the South, I learned the other word that's one word, not two, damn Yankee. You know? And there's a reason that all the statues in Savannah are facing north, you know? Somebody's coming, you know?
Right, absolutely.
And I remember, forgive me, Nikki, I just want to tell this one thing. When my dad, God rest his soul, my dad loved Grant's 8-year-old scotch. And he went all over Savannah looking for a bottle of Grant's scotch. I got a bulletin for you. They didn't have it there.
And aren't going to.
They aren't going to have it for some because they don't like him.
But the redneck thing actually is, and I found through doing this, it's not limited to the... To me, a redneck is kind of a glorious absence of sophistication. Mm-hmm. And this stuff works in Chicago. Well, anywhere there's flannel shirts, you're going to have rednecks.
Hey, listen, by the way, it's going to work in Wisconsin, too, because in Wisconsin, we aren't rednecks, we're bleep kickers. You know what I mean?
And it's the same person.
Yeah.
It's the same person. I mean, one of my new favorites is if you might be a redneck if you wear a dress that is strapless with a bra that isn't. And we saw this on the road, and that's what makes them funny. You do these on stage, and people start elbowing each other.
Or, hey, there she is right over there.
Yeah. If your wife has ever said, come move this transmission so I can take a bath, you know.
I've done that.
See, she's done it. That's what makes it funny.
Yeah. How can you tell where the redneck lives? There's the car out on Jack's in the front yard. Right, yeah.
A home that is mobile and 14 cars that aren't.
Usually, yeah. 48 Lincoln up on Jack's in the front yard, yeah. What were you going to say, Nikki? I'm sorry.
I was going to say I love the text because I can associate with it, and I can point out every one of his you might be a redneck to a member of my family.
You know, and I've always tried to keep them true. I mean, I'm not trying to make them bizarre. But my brother's guilty of the one if you take your dog for a walk and you both use the tree at the corner. And that's what you see people elbowing each other.
Yeah, exactly. Nikki, I'm glad you called. Thanks.
Thanks.
So am I. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The wonderful thing about the South is it's so easy to understand. Like they'll say, I'm fixing to go to my boyfriend's house, right? Or let me drop by. I'll carry you there. I mean, they use the words that describe exactly what's going to happen in the course of action. The other one that I used to love down there, and I guess you're a redneck if you love the New Year's Eve bonfire. They had this. they had this thing in Savannah. Geez, I mean, every year they'd get all the Christmas trees in town. They get all the old tires. That, you know, one thing that's great in the South is the what do you call it when you put the tread back on a tire? Retread. Yeah. Right. Okay, rubber welders. Except they didn't weld real tight. Okay. So they get all the tires and all the trees, and at midnight they set this thing off, and they finally had to stop it because the
tires are burned for 3 weeks.
They burn the whole town down.
Right. They're cooking on the thing.
I know, but we'd get out there and we'd get this stuff that we buy up in North Georgia that came in gallon bottles. You know what I mean?
It'll take the paint off your car if you spill it too.
But smooth going down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just the return trip that'd kill you. You know?
It's when you walk home naked after that.
Thank you for coming over tonight.
It's always a
I know you could have been someplace else, and I'm really appreciative that you came here, and I hope you'll come and see us anytime.
Thank you so much.
My great pleasure. Mr. Jeff Foxworthy, folks, and his new CD is called You Might Be a Redneck If. We'll be right back to wrap it up for late on Thursday, early on Friday after this. Thanks again, Jeff. This was great. This is great.
You know you can get salmonella poisoning from bacteria in undercooked food, like some chicken or fish. But you can also get it if that bacteria has been spread around the kitchen.
That's why there's Lysol, antibacterial kitchen cleaner. As it cleans, it kills the bacteria and keeps them from spreading, which may help keep you from getting sick. Get Lysol, antibacterial kitchen cleaner.
Lysol spray use number 121, that damp, spooky place under the sink. Lysol disinfectant spray. There's nothing this can can't do.
How do I like my steak? How do I like my steak? Bold, eye-opening, spicy. It gets you here, and it gets you right here. A1 Bold. Yeah, that's what I'm in the mood for.
Original A1 and A1 Bold. They're how steak is done. This is a square inch. A wheat thin is the most real food deliciousness you can get in a square inch. The most genuine toastiness. The most crunchiness. The most munchiness. Wheat thins, the most taste you can get in a square inch.
How fast can you begin to feel relief from a cold? Depends. How fast can you open Hall's with vapor action? Hall's vapor action means instant action, only from the halls of medicine.
Chew on this. Down in Austin, the hottest places to eat ribs are the hardest places to brush your teeth. Now chew on this. Chewing Trident with NutraSweet after meals can actually help you fight cavities. So when you can't brush, chew on this. Trident.
This summer, we invited everyone who owns a Saturn to visit Spring Hill, a Saturn homecoming. They could see where their cars were built and meet the people who built them. We could thank them for believing in us. 44,000 people spent their vacations with us at a car plant. Of course, not everything went exactly as planned, but we were all in it together, the way we always have been.
Explore a city where the horizons are ever expanding. Discover a TV newscast that knows no boundaries, no barriers. Join people who want to give you information that means something to your life. Add your voice. Take part. 19 News, a new choice for a new Cleveland.
Need money for a new car? Ohio Auto Credit can help. If you can answer yes to these 3 questions, you are on your way to a new car or truck. Can you afford a minimum down payment? Do you have a job or steady income? Do you have an immediate need for a car today? In less than 4 hours from receipt of your application, you'll be on your way. So don't delay. Operators are on duty 24 hours a day to answer your questions. Call Ohio Auto Credit Help now. 1-800-393-CREDIT. 1-800-393-CREDIT. Because your credit is not as bad as you think.
You know, I mentioned to the staff here in the studio that Jeff passed up a chance to do a different late-night television show on a different network to come here, and Mark Kennedy said he could be a frequent guest. I said, could be the next host. Drive safely on the way home and sleep tight, America. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night, all.
Had enough? An entire network news broadcast without one mention of the Simpson case. It's an OJ-free half hour, only on CBS News up to the minute.
Is their 60 Minutes anniversary show really as good as the critics say it is? See for yourself when the best 1 hour in television becomes the best 2 hours in television, Sunday. This is